Monday, this season's big hit finally arrives.
Time has come.
And the critics are raving.
Might want to hold on.
Get ready
He's trying to rewrite history. We would come back to an entirely different world.
for the fall's biggest adventure.
Who are you? We're actually...
This is Dr. Dre. I'm Nurse Jackie. We're from General Hospital.
Timeless premieres this Monday at 10/9 Central after The Voice on NBC.
So Timeless is so awesome. It's kind of hokey to say, but it brings history to life.
I know, isn't that crazy? We're trying to make history cool again. Sexy history, yes, absolutely.
How did you come to do this, aside from the two amazing showrunners, of course?
It's always so interesting how you get work. I always think it's a miracle. It's like, how did this happen? It took so many people, and the timing and like the lifetime of preparation for the moment of opportunity. I mean, it's really all of those things coming together. As you know, I've been on a show called Rectify for the past 5 years. And what happened was we had a month where I was free to do something else. I could have done a pilot, or maybe found something else that would start after we were done with our 4th and final season of Rectify. And I mean, out of the blue, I got a call from Sean Ryan, who created The Shield, and Eric Kripke, who created Supernatural. And they asked if I would come by and say hi. And I was like, are you sure? Like, how do you even know who I am? And this is very interesting, because there's a lot of shows that you never see. There's all these pilots that get made, and sometimes they just get put away in a pile. And I was in many of those piles over many years. Before I played Suzanne Farrell on Mad Men, I had been the lead of 8 different network pilots that never saw the light of day. And one of these pilots was called Grace, and it was written by Krista Vernoff, who was the co-showrunner of Grey's Anatomy for 7 years. And Leslie Linka Glatter, who is an incredible director from Mad Men and The Shield and Homeland. I mean, she's a grande dame in our industry of female producer-directors. She directed that pilot and sent it to Sean Ryan a few years ago and was like, I just really love you to see this, and I just really cared about it. And I loved it too. It was like one of those ones that got away. Because I was a dancer, and I played a dancer in the show who was like moonlighting as a lawyer by day, but really was a dancer in her heart, and her father was like this Bob Fosse-esque choreographer. So anyway, Sean Ryan saw that pilot, and he remembered me from that. That's actually what he saw me from, and thought of me for Lucy. So when they were casting the show, apparently I was the only one that he wanted for the part. And then when they found out that Rectify was ending and I had this month to do a pilot, they brought me in, and you know, you just never know where these things come from. And in the world, there's so much content now. You know, there's so much film, there's so much television, there's so many places. Like, the planet can't keep up with how much content we're creating. There actually aren't enough technicians available to support all of the content that we're creating now. So I sat and met with them, and they're so lovely, they're so smart. But to introduce the character of Lucy in the world of characters, a woman who leads with her intelligence, you know, someone who's kind of a goofball. She's a fish out of water. She's really, really good in this one area, but then...
She's a history professor.
She's a history professor, and then she becomes the heroine. And I just thought, well, one, I've never done that before. I haven't done anything of this size before. It's really, really epic and feels more like a movie, really. And I just felt like she was the best character of everything I was reading at the time. And what a great thing to put on television right now.
What's been the coolest era for you to revisit?
Well, I love vintage clothing, and I love history, and I kind of always feel like I belonged in the past in some way. Before I got cast on Mad Men, people would stop me on the street, be like, you should be on this show called Mad Men. I had never even heard of it before, and I'm like, I don't know how to take that. Do I look like I belong in 1962, you know?
I would take that as a compliment, but then you're like, and how do I go about that?
Yeah, I know.
Let me just
like,
text Matthew Weiner.
Yeah. And I hadn't seen it, and so... But how that worked out is Laura Schiff and Carrie Audino, who cast Mad Men, they were my first general meeting when I moved to Los Angeles. And they cast me on my first series. And they just remembered me, and they actually had been thinking of me for a part for season 3, and that's how I ended up getting cast.
That is amazing, and obviously says a lot about you as a person that you leave such good impressions with people, and that they want to go back and work with you.
There's time to destroy it now. I still have time.
But let's go back to, what era do you love to read?
Oh, yes, that was your original question. Well, we did an episode in the 40s, 1944, and there's like Katharine Hepburn era, something about the clothing and the way that people talked and were, and the body language. That's been a real favorite of mine so far. But that's the cool thing about the show, is every single week we're going to a different time period. We're going to a different event in time, and then re-exploring it through a different lens, like something about that famous event that you didn't even know about. So there is, you are learning something, but it's in a very entertaining and, I would say, like, family-friendly way. Like, it's adult, but at the same time, you could watch it with your whole family, which I love, which is not something that I've been able to really do in my career. And I'm a mom. I have an 8-year-old, so...
Wait, you don't watch Mad Men with your kid?
No.
Confused as to why that would be.
Why?
Or Suits.
I know.
Really?
No, I don't,
So what does he think of Mom being on the show?
He really loved it. It was so interesting. So in the pilot, kind of as you saw a taste of it, we go to 1937 when the Hindenburg crashed, which was just over in New Jersey. And simultaneously, he was learning about the Hindenburg in school. So he's watching the pilot, and then he's learning about the Hindenburg, and he just kind of, then he wanted to get all of these books about the different events and about history, and he's really excited. He can't wait to see what happens next.
How do you guys decide what time periods to go back to?
I don't know how they're bringing that together. I mean, it starts in 1937. The second episode is the night that Abraham Lincoln was assassinated, 1865. And then after that, we're going to 1962 Vegas to the DNC convention where John F. Kennedy and the Rat Pack are, which was amazing. And then from there, we go to 1944 and meet Ian Fleming, who wrote all the Bond movies, but at the time was an undercover spy, an actual spy, which I didn't know. And then from there, we went to the Alamo, which obviously is a very famous, piece of history in America. But I just learning so much about the Alamo that I didn't know, or why, and all these famous people that died there, Davy Crockett and Jim Bowie. And then from there, we go on to Watergate, the 70s. I really liked that. I love the clothes from that era. I really
was about to ask you the most shallow of all questions. Do you get to keep any of the clothes?
That remains to be seen. Our costume designer, she went actually to an auction, and she bought a bunch of clothes from a woman that she thought might be my same size, and they're all from the 70s. And this woman, we are the same build. They fit perfectly. And I just love that there's history in the story of the history of how the clothes even came to me. And some of them might fall off the truck, maybe.
Oh. She doesn't mean it, NBC. She's kidding.
No.
She's totally kidding.
It fell off the truck.
What of yourself do you see in Lucy?
Wait, say it again?
What of yourself do you see in Lucy?
Oh my gosh. It's so funny. So Matt Lanter, who plays Wyatt Logan on the show, we were at because we've been doing a lot of press. Like, we started shooting the show, and the first weekend, we're shooting for a week, and they fly us to Comic-Con. Like, we're shooting all night, and then we get on planes and go to Comic-Con to premiere the pilot in front of 1,000 people. And it's just one of those moments where, like, is this happening? Like, is this my life? Like, what just happened? And a really beautiful response. But in our travels, we're getting to know each other pretty well. And I'm pretty clumsy, and I'm a little goofy, I would say. And and I tend to fall a lot. And that definitely weaved its way into Lucy. And he looked at me with wonder, like he had never seen it, realized it before. And he was like, oh, you're really like your character, aren't you? And I was like, or is she like me? That's the conundrum right there.
Oh, the chicken or the egg.
Yeah. Well, that's what I want. When I met with Eric and Sean, I said, I don't want to play a hero. I don't want to play someone who's so far into the journey that they already know what they're doing. I want someone to be at the beginning of the journey and then kind of see where it goes from there. And they were so into it and so open to it.
And you said, you've been in so many pilots that didn't get picked up. How do you stay motivated to keep on working? Because it is such a tough industry.
Yeah, it is. I don't know, I guess.
And I don't mean to single, every actor. It's the same for everyone.
Absolutely. No, people are like, oh, what do you do for a living? I'm like, I'm a professional loser. Because you just get told no a lot, and you do have to have a certain amount of stamina and grit and, determination, I think, to do anything that you choose to do in life. But particularly with my experience with being a storyteller, an actor, an entertainer of any sort, it's just a lot of heartbreak and heartache. I think a couple things. I had a tremendous amount of support from my parents. My dad was a professional surfer. So think about that. Like, that's like, who does that for a living, where they're a professional surfer? So it wasn't like when I was like, I want to be an actor, it'd be like, no, you got to get a real job, because he just goes to the beach every day and goes surfing. And my mother's an artist and a singer, so they were very supportive of pursuing the arts, and my parents loved movies. I mean, I'll never forget the first time my mother showed me Funny Girl, starring Barbara Streisand, or, Summer Stock, starring Judy Garland and Gene Kelly. I mean, it was really, they were the ones. It was they put me in dance class, instead of, I could have become a professional surfer, and then they put me in dance class because my dad said it was like land surfing. It was like the closest thing to it for me. And it just started from there, and I just kept at it. I don't know. I love it. It's like a disease. I gotta do it. I gotta have it, and it just keeps changing as I get older and as I get more experience and as I work with more people and I keep learning more. I just get so much more interested in doing more of it, and it becomes this cyclical thing. But I think the big thing that I share with people is, like, if you have the seed, if you have the kernel of just wanting to create within you in whatever capacity, just don't give up. I mean, at some point, you'll get better, and at some point, the opportunity will match, your skill. And that's kind of just what my theory is about it, is like, oh, well, I just didn't give up. And so every time an opportunity came along, my skill set had just increased, and I grew. And then, the hope now is that when you sign on to a project that you're the worst, that you're the worst one in the room, because how are you going to get better? How do you grow if you're not kind of over here and you are surrounded by people that can teach you things? And I've been very fortunate in that area. I've constantly been the worst in the room.
No, I wouldn't say that. I would say that you've worked with some incredible people, though. Nick
have.
Pizzolatto. I mean, we're just talking about Colin Farrell. Like, it's... I mean, you've really kind of...
I mean, my first big movie was Harrison Ford and Daniel Craig and Olivia Wilde and Sam Rockwell. I mean, Jon Favreau directing it. It was amazing.
Boys and Aliens, yeah.
It was Candyland, going to set every day in Santa Fe. And John's the best. I mean, he every day I wasn't working, he would invite me to set so I could come and watch and learn. And that job came about because of Mad Men. He saw me on the show, and it was someone else who was very famous was cast in the part, and then all of a sudden couldn't do it, and saw my audition and loved me from Mad Men, and c'est la vie.
What role do you think changed the course of your career? Is it Mad Men?
I think, well, there's personal ones that change you personally. When I was 23, I was cast on, again, one of these pilots that didn't get picked up, called Introducing Lenny Rose, where I played an alcoholic singer-songwriter who was kind of down and out in New York with her artist friends, making a name for herself. And I sing, and I, play a little guitar, and I loved it, and it was a big get, it was a big get to get the show, and ultimately didn't get picked up. But that's the first time that I think people in the industry saw my work. I mean, my first job ever was on All My Children. I was 17 years old and sitting in the audience of the Regis and Kathy Lee show. And it just so happened that my professional surfing father was Kathy Lee Gifford's first love when she was 15 years old. She was junior miss, and my dad was East Coast champion, and so of course they met on the beach in Rehoboth Beach.
But of course,
like, why wouldn't they? And kept in touch over the years, and yep, you're welcome. And got it. And so when I came to New York for the first time when I was 17 to audition for all of the theater programs, because I was going to go to school. I mean, that's what you do. You're like, I want to be an actor, I'm going to go get some training. So I came here to audition for all the schools. But, of course, it's like a fun thing to do in New York on your first trip. My dad asked Kathy Lee, who I'd never met before, if we could come sit in the audience of the show. She said yes, got us tickets. I didn't think she would, talk to us or anything. I just thought it'd be, a fun thing to do, first morning in New York. And as soon as the show started, she came out to us immediately. It's like, I'm so glad to meet you. She's so lovely, the most wonderful. Talked to me in the audience, and then went and started the show. And it's like, oh, this is the best ever, watching a real New York show. Kind of like you guys are doing it. Like, you just sit in the audience and you're watching a show, And then 5 minutes into their morning banter, she goes, everybody, there's someone very special I'd like for you to meet in the audience today. And I'm thinking it's like Dave Letterman or someone she was friends with, and looking around for famous people. Everybody meet Abigail Spencer. And like one of these cameras right now, like one of the, like zoomed right into my face. And she goes, Abigail, tell everyone what you're doing in New York today. And I go, well, I'm a singer and an actress and a dancer, and I'm auditioning for NYU and Carnegie Mellon. Someday I'm going to be a director. like 17, super green, no fear, giant curly hair. Like Shania Twain is jealous of the hair that I used to have. And, just talked on the show for a little while. Just so happened that Kathy Lee's assistant knew what I was in New York for and called around to some of the casting directors, and Judy Bly Wilson, who cast All My Children, picked up the phone and was like, oh, we have this lovely girl in the audience who wants to be an actress, like, oh my gosh, like annoying, like, do you want to meet her? And Judy was like, is that girl that you were talking with in the audience? I just loved what she said. Yes, I'd love to meet her. So
that is an amazing story.
My second day in New York, I had a general casting session with Judy Bly Wilson, the casting director of All My Children. And I swear, it was like the Mary Tyler Moore music was playing when I was walking. Like, I had my green 70s, because I dressed retro in high school, so I'm green 70s and my beret, and I'm like, love is all around, just singing. Like, I'm like, New York is amazing, And I met with her. I didn't think anything would happen. I auditioned for the schools. I got into Carnegie Mellon. I'm like, that's where I'm going. Very practical. And then out of nowhere, Judy Bly Wilson remembered me and convinced me to put myself on tape for the show. And this was the big kicker. She's like, you don't even have to fly to New York. Because I was very resistant to coming back. I'm like, Judy, I'm playing Rizzo in Greece right now. I'm in a one-act festival, and I'm going to Carnegie Mellon. I simply have no time to come to New York to audition for All My Children. With my very dramatic, long cigarette that I always had in my mind. And then she's like, oh, that's okay. I'll just send you some sides and you can put yourself on tape. And I'm like, fine. What are sides? I had no idea. I'd only read plays before, So she was like, oh, it's like pages from the script. I was like, I guess that will do. I'm the worst, just the worst. Put myself on tape, me and my mom, with my, again, guest star in my giant curly hair. And my mom's so funny, she didn't even know how to use it. It was like one of those giant VHS cameras that none of you probably even have ever seen.
Oh, I remember.
You remember. And she didn't know how to use the zoom. So at the end, when she wanted to do a close-up, she just got really close to my face. And so she just creepily going in for the close-up. She's like, that's what they do on soaps, right? She's like Martin Scorsese in my audition.
You're like, yeah, Mean Streets.
Yeah.
And as they say, soaps really are the best place to learn acting, right? The work ethic, how many pages you do in a day.
It's so sad that it's not around anymore, that there are a few that are still, out there kicking it and thriving, but it really was a training ground. Where else do you get training? Even if you go to the best schools in the world, no one puts your mark on the floor and tells you where to stand and puts lights on you and a camera and then says, okay, do that in this area. And I was just so fortunate that All My Children was boot camp for that. I really got a lot of great professional training, and the actors on that show were so lovely. Kelly Ripa was on the show when I was on, and I'll never forget when I first came on the show, she pulled me aside and she goes, get out while you can. She's like, you sing, you dance, you're so talented, get out. I swear, she was so funny. She just, every time she's like, get out.
And look, she's done okay for herself,
She's done
I think.
okay for herself.
All right, let's turn it over to our audience.
Hey, Abigail.
Hey.
So you've worked on a couple of movies with special effects, including Oz and Cowboys and Aliens. Are there a lot of special effects in this movie, and how are they practical or CGI?
That's a great question because there are quite a few special effects, but we're doing as much practical as we possibly can to kind of keep that more early Spielberg feel to it, because that's a little bit of our model, early Spielberg, meets Bourne type filmmaking. And it's pretty great because we have so much real, and then for the Hindenburg, there was nothing there. They're just like, look over there's the Hindenburg. And so you're just kind of like, oh, okay. There it is. And then you see it all put together, and I thought they did a beautiful job with the graphics and the show. But we really do try and keep as much as possible real that we can.
Next question, please.
Hello, look how cute you are. Well, her question was, as acting more, has my life changed, and have I had like a crazy fan experience, like where I've been a fan? Is that what you're talking about? Because I've definitely had that.
Yes.
Well, I'll start with that one first. I got to meet Julia Roberts at an event one time, and I didn't know that she was going to be there, and I was like, oh my God, I'm not prepared. And then someone brought me over to meet her, and she's so beautiful and so warm, like everything that you hoped she would be. And like I was like, the lights went low. It was just me and her. Like I was like, like I don't even know what she was saying, but I was like tasting everything she was saying, like, And in my mind, I'm like, she and I will be sisters in a movie one day for sure. Like already planning our future together. It was so weird. I'm like, I'm so weird.
And how has your life changed?
I mean, not much. I mean, I've been very fortunate that a lot of the roles that I play, I'm somewhat of a chameleon. I mean, really, I just get to work more and work with, different and artists that I've been dying to work with. I mean, I guess how it changes, I'm here talking to you guys. I don't, that's definitely different. That's not a normal Monday in my life. But, I have the same friends that I've had since I was 5, 13, some of them live around here. So I keep a pretty tight group, and then I get to do stuff like this.
And we have time for one more question, please.
Hi, Abigail. Oh, that was loud.
I know, sorry. It's like you're trying to make a little joke and it booms.
You're so lovely.
Oh, you're so sweet.
I just wanted to ask, what is the greatest advice you could give to a young actress like me?
Mm-hmm. Well, I still feel like a young actress. I'm like, oh, someday I'll really know what I'm doing out there. I think part of what I said earlier is like, don't quit. Just kind of keep doing that. But I think the biggest thing that's helped me is surrounding myself with other like-minded artists and making stuff. Like, a couple years ago, I had 5 weeks off. I wasn't working for 5 weeks, and I knew it. So I got my friends together who are directors and producers and writers and cinematographers, and we made a movie in that 5 weeks. We made a short film. It's called Here and Now. You can find it online. And then we ended up winning Ron Howard's Project Imagination with it. And we wrote it ourselves, we produced it ourselves, we made it ourselves, and it's one of the things I'm the most proud of. And then I produced another film. I had a few weeks off and put together another film with the same group, and that ended up being on the Oscar shortlist last year. I just think the more you do, the more you make, and the more you can surround yourself. Like, acting is not a competitive art. We need each other. There's no one that's going, like, when you walk into a room or for an audition, the only competition is within yourself, because it's really, are you willing to let yourself be seen? If you're right for the part, that's really not your business. Someone might have an idea of what they want, and that's what's fun about writing and producing, is because I'm so limited by the way that I look, to a certain, I can't tell every story with this. So just remember that so much of it is not personal at all, but I think the real thing is, will I let people see me, and that be enough, and kind of forget about getting the job. And that's been a lot of what I've learned along the way, and probably what I would have told myself, because I was the worst. Like, I would get so nervous. I mean, I remember I was here in New York, and it was right after the soap, and I desperately wanted to do theater. Like, this whole thing is so I can get over to Broadway. Like all of this is just so I can get over there. And I'm like, how do I get over there? All my friends are on Broadway. I'm like, how did you do it? It's like this.
I bet they're all like, I just want a TV show.
I know, like total opposite. But I would just get so nervous. I remember one time I think I blacked out during an audition. Like, it's the self. So, and that's what I love about acting too, is it really forces you to grow and deepen your character and just keep with it.
And when can we see Timeless?
Tonight, believe it or not. Tonight on NBC at 10 p.m. after The Voice.
Thank you so much, Abigail.